welcome to the Street Pianist, a celebration of all the wonderful musicians who play street piano, even when nobody's listening. Hello, Vroni.
Hello, Claire.
So I've got Vroni with me today, Vroni Holzmann, and I met Vroni because we were both participants on the piano TV show, and I think we first met at the final. I think we just spotted each other and worked out that we might be kindred spirits. I don't know, but we ended up going drinking together. And now here we are, and I'm now sitting in Vroni's beautiful flat in Edinburgh, and we've just been out on the Meadows where Vroni has been playing piano. But let me start by asking you, Vroni, to describe what it is that you do with your piano, because it's a little bit unusual.
I take a piano out and play it in streets and parks all over the place.
See, you say that as though it were just a simple, normal thing. I just take my piano out, but it's a proper piano. It's an upright piano, and pianos are not known for being portable. And I'm going to ask you about all of that. But first of all, let me ask you about the piano itself, because it's a beautiful wooden cased instrument. And I'd love to know how long you've had it, where you got it.
I got this piano because I was looking for one that I could take onto the streets in a good way. It's a little bit shorter, but it's full size really, and it's as heavy as any other. But I found this piano because by looking for a piano, I put out an ad. And in the ad I said, I'm looking for a piano to take around with me. And this woman phoned me up and she said, I have exactly what you need. And I wasn't sure how she would know that. But anyways, I went there and she showed me something that looked to me like a bit of furniture. I didn't even see a piano.
Yes.
And then she opened it and then it was a piano. And it's like a very compact instrument. I found out later that it was made in 1937 by the piano manufacturer Steingräber. And it is extremely well built, which is why it still keeps in tune and things like that. It's just a really high quality instrument.
It is a beautiful instrument. We will listen to some of it later, but I've been able to play it, and I've been listening to Vroni playing it, and it has a beautiful tone, and it projects incredibly well when it's outside as well. But it is a gorgeous instrument. And so it sounds as though you had already decided that you wanted to play a piano outside and to busk with a piano before you bought this one. So did you have another one that you were busking with before this one, or was this the first one that you busked with?
I busked with a few other pianos before. I started in the Edinburgh Festival in 1999. And that year I wanted to become part of the festival. And I thought, I play piano, so what I'll do is I'll try and put a piano out there. And I bought a piano in a charity shop for 50 quid. I just bought the cheapest one I could find.
Yeah.
And I bought the cheapest van I could find.
Yeah.
It had 2 months MOT just for that festival.
Right.
And then I took that piano and van out to the Royal Mile and played. And it was so well received that I felt like I want to do it again. But obviously this was all just sort of trial equipment in a way.
Yeah.
So then the next year I tried to go on tour with some pianos, like the piano of my mum, took that from her house, and another one, and just tried different things. But they all weren't quite it. It was a stroke of luck that I found this piano that I'm traveling with.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as saying if I hadn't found that piano, I probably would have never done this so long.
Right.
So it also in some way kept me going because it's such an amazing instrument. It's actually loud and a beautiful sound, and it keeps in tune enough to keep doing this. And then how did it even withstand all the stuff I'm doing to it? I really put it under stress.
Yeah.
You lift it in and out of a van every day and things like that. I think a lot of pianos would have given up by then. So it's like the piano and my crazy mind together create this touring piano. Really.
Oh, fantastic. And it is wonderful to behold. So you first did this in 1999, so that was 25 years ago. But how long have you been doing it with this piano?
2000.
2000. Oh, wow. So 24 years. That is amazing. Wow. And describe the piano itself, because it does look like a piece of furniture. And when I saw it in the back, I knew it was a piano. But when I saw it in the back of the van, I thought it had drawers in the front. It looks a bit like a bureau or something. But then what looks like drawers is actually this sort of clever cover with handles, and you lift it up. But describe to me what the piano looks like. And we will show some photos as well with the show notes.
It's like a big brown thing. And it has city names written all over, which is all the places it's been to.
Yeah.
I don't know, I started that for a laugh. I was like, that'd be funny, we write the names on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had by now 4 different artists add these names. Their calligraphy, they look engraved.
Yes, they do.
People still fall for that. Sometimes they're still like, wow, you got the names engraved.
Yeah.
But it's actually just a clever way of using brown and gold and shadows and stuff. Yeah, artist friends do that for me. I'm not really a painter. So that's an amazing thing. So it's got that. What else has the piano itself got? Oh, it has a constant need to be fixed and tuned. And again, for that, I have some amazing tuners I know. And my friend Joey is amazing at repairing pianos. And the company itself that created, that made that piano, they sometimes help me as well. So this year, the piano was there for a day. They fixed it.
Yeah.
So it needs a lot of love and care, really.
Yeah.
In order to keep it going.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, what about the stool? Because it's not just a beautiful piano. There's also a beautiful piano stool that you take with you. Did you get that around the same time?
I can't tell you where the stool's from. I reckon I dragged it out of my mum's house. We had at least 2 pianos in the house anyways.
Yeah.
Because I ended up playing so much piano that my mum bought herself one for her bedroom. Because she also wants to play.
And you were hogging the piano. She wanted her own opportunity to play.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. And so I think I might have found that there, but I couldn't even tell you. I have no idea.
Yeah. And where does your mum live?
She's in Bavaria.
Which is where you're from.
Yes, I'm from Rosenheim, near the Austrian border.
But you're now in Edinburgh. And have you been in Edinburgh since 1999 or since before?
Since 1995.
Because when I first met you, I couldn't quite place your accent because you sound Scottish, but you also don't sound Scottish. And that's why, because you're Bavarian, but you've lived in Edinburgh for a long time. And in Bavaria, is that where you learnt to play piano? When did you first start playing piano?
I started playing when I was 8. When I was 7, my mum put a violin in my hands and said, that's what you play. She did that with every kid. There was 2 older siblings and they were happy with that. But I was like, no, I want to play something else. I want to play the piano like you. And she held out for about a year and then she said, okay, play the piano, but you still have to play the violin. I wasn't allowed to stop that. And so I just wanted to play piano. I just thought it was funky what she did there.
Yeah.
And so when I was 8 is when I started.
Right.
But when I was a teenager, I don't know why, but I got really obsessed with trying to learn ragtimes and stuff like that. Also some difficult classic pieces. I just became quite obsessed with the piano.
Right.
And I would come home from school and just throw my school books into a corner and run to the piano and just play that for hours.
Yeah.
That was my life for a few years. And I think that's why I got technically fairly good. It was just that obsession with it.
Yeah. And so you said that your mum would tell each child that they had to play a particular instrument. Was it all violin or was each child given a different instrument?
It was violin, then cello, and then violin again. So her being a pianist, I reckon she was building herself a nice little quartet.
I'm impressed because I think I had the same conversation, not the same conversation, but we discussed when I was speaking to Mikey, who you've also met, who was also on the piano, we discussed what happens when you put a violin into the hands of a child. And there is a period when anybody learns violin, but I suspect particularly children, when it sounds hideous. And I have very deliberately made sure that no child of mine ever learnt the violin because I didn't want to live in the same house as a child learning to play violin.
That's very clever. Very smart. But what might have happened is that the reason I hated playing the violin was because I didn't want to listen to it.
Yes.
That might actually have happened to me. I don't think my mum minded any.
Yeah.
She didn't mind any noise. If she needed time out, she would just go to her bed and fall asleep.
Yeah.
And if we woke her because we wanted anything at all,
Yeah.
we'd be like, "Mum, can I have this or that?" She would just say, yes, whatever. Just go away. So she was a very easygoing mum. But that was her time out. She didn't worry. When she removed herself from the situation, she also at that point was like, do whatever you want.
And there were 4 of you, you say?
3 kids.
3 kids. Yeah. Maybe that's just how you cope with having 3 kids.
Possibly.
Sometimes. Because my mum used to do the same. My mum used to take naps. And we actually weren't allowed to disturb her when she was having her naps.
We were, but she wasn't getting up for us or anything. She was just staying right there.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And she was also not going to have an argument about anything, so it was basically a yes. So it was a brilliant time going to her when she was sleeping. You could get whatever you wanted.
Yeah. But the violin thing, it's interesting. You said that maybe you didn't want to play because you could hear how horrible it sounded when people are learning. And this is one of the things that I think is an advantage of a piano, is that you can make it sound nice very quickly. And that's satisfying to somebody who's learning an instrument, that they can make it sound nice. So I think it's a very accessible instrument, apart from the fact that they're so flipping big. But you, out of all people, seem to have got over that problem. For most people, a piano is not a portable instrument. A piano is an instrument that you have to arrive at a venue and hope they've got one. Although, of course, these days you can take an electric piano with you. But most people don't take a piano around and about. And here's you travelling all over Europe doing this amazing, unusual thing. And I think when I've spoken to you before, you said that's part of the attraction for you, that it is so unusual.
Yes, the surreality of it I find very attractive.
Yes.
For me, that's like when art is random and surreal and spontaneous, that's for me when it's in a good place. Because it takes people out of whatever they're up to and gives them possibilities.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I guess you can do that. So what does that mean for me?
Yes.
So it's, if you do something quite wild, but pleasant, but like just something that's quite wild, but then it's also beautiful because you get beautiful music, then I'm hoping that once in a while someone is like, they don't have to consciously think that, but that something happens to them where they're like, I guess I can do these things.
Yeah.
I don't have society or people don't have to stop me from doing something funky.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like you should do it or anything like that. And things like money and whatever. Like if I did this to earn, forget it. It'd be long, long gone. So you just have to not let any of these things stop you and just do it anyway.
Yeah, because it's really unexpected to suddenly find a woman sitting on the grass playing an actual piano. And we were out earlier in the Meadows in Edinburgh. Is it called the Meadow or the Meadows?
The Meadows.
The Meadows. And people were walking past and so many people just broke into a smile. And you said to me that it felt a bit flat, and maybe it was the weather, that the people didn't seem to be very happy today. And you said, let's see what we can do about that. And you did. You brought a smile to so many people's faces. And there was a period when you went off to get a coffee and I got to have a bit of a play. And the thing that I really noticed was the reactions of the people walking past, how I was creating these little moments of engagement with all of these people just walking past. And that's a wonderful little bit of magic. And we also talked about the fact that you transport the piano in your van. But when you arrive, after you've taken the piano out of the van, you then move the van. And I thought that you'd take it, because I didn't really pay attention. I just minded the piano while you moved the van, and I didn't pay attention to where it was. I thought maybe you just weren't allowed to, I don't know. I didn't really think about what had happened to the van. But when I asked you about it, you said that you had very deliberately moved it because it would spoil the magic if it was there. You want people to just find a random woman playing a piano and not think about how it got there. And that helps with the surrealness of the whole thing.
Yeah. And also, like, to not have kind of anything like people sometimes say, oh, you should get wheels on it or whatever. No, that's exactly what I don't want. Like, of course, it'd be nicer if it would be easier to move it. But my project is about something that looks like it should be in a living room, because that already messes a little bit with someone's reality, and it makes them maybe question how, why, how, and all these thoughts take them away from maybe thoughts that are like, oh my God, how am I going to afford the next thing? Or maybe I feel low about this or that, or maybe my everyday is just swallowing me up. So they're like, oh, what is that? What is she doing? And then they're like, oh, that's nice music. And then they start listening, and yeah, so it's a thing that you bring to people, really.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the practicalities of taking a piano all over Europe in the back of a van. And I know you said to me the first thing that you have to worry about is weather. So tell me about weather and how it affects you.
Weather is the curse hanging over me. I cannot play if it's raining. I also shouldn't play if it looks like it will be raining. And it's a really complicated thing on tour, because on tour I'm bound to certain places because I have to stay somewhere and I have to have a friend helping me. So I can't just go off on my own, because when I drive into a place, I need to separate piano and van at some point. And that's not only because I think it would disturb my picture. It's also because you most of the time can't have it there next to you. You have to park it somewhere. So I need to have someone who travels me at least that day into that town, and I need to have somewhere to stay that night. And because there's these fixed points, but the weather is the weather. And it's really, it can be quite hard. Sometimes I change route for it, but that's a complicated thing.
Yeah. And what do you do if it rains?
If it rains while I play, I have to put a cover over it and get the van. I run to the van, and bring it as fast as I can. And I get people to help me load and unload. But in this scenario, you just try and get anybody who's nearby to help. You just try and get it in, get it the least wet that's possible, because it will affect it. If that gets properly wet, that's not going to be good. So you just try and load it and be gone.
And what would happen to it if it did get wet?
If it got wet and I load it and it's wet in the van, then I'll just try and dry it over the next day or whatever. So I'll have to just, wherever I am, then take everything off it again and try and dry everything. You mean what? If it just got wet and you couldn't do anything about it, then I'm sure that would ruin that piano. That wouldn't take long.
Yeah, yeah,
Because all the wood is just gonna
yeah,
move.
yeah,
So once is okay.
Yeah.
And then drying it again, it might go out of tune,
yeah,
but I let it happen the least possible. Because also, if you think about it, that I've been touring with it for 24 years, then if I had let that be rained on in the first 5 years, it wouldn't be here now.
yeah.
So this, like, I'm someone who, what do you call it? I can't find a positive word for it. The negative words are like, I'm quite uptight or perfectionist or try a bit too hard.
Or we could say that you're very thorough. Or
Yes, so I'm very thorough.
Yes.
And for that reason,
very conscientious.
yeah. So for that reason, I'm still here and the piano's still here.
Yes.
And I think, I often tell myself off because I'd like to be more easygoing, even in a situation. But really, at the end of the day, there's these choices you make. And I think what I overall always want is to look after something well.
Yes.
And then that means it's still here. In fact, it might have even improved because I'm still looking after that thing.
Yes.
And it would be just sitting in someone's house and slowly they do deteriorate,
Yes.
of course.
Yes. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So going back to the piano and its history, do you know anything about its previous owners?
So when I got it in 2000, it was an old lady who had it. I don't know much about it. Whether we chatted or not, I would have forgotten that. The beginnings of this piano, I'm lucky to have pictures or whatever because I didn't think I'd do this for long. This wasn't an origin thing. This was just a crazy
Little
thing.
whim, just a crazy
Just
little
a really
project.
crazy thing. I'll do that once and then obviously not again. So I don't really know that much about that. But so this was in 2000, but I think it was 2011 that I contacted the piano maker Steingräber. They're in Bayreuth, which is also in Bavaria. But a good few hours from me, like
Did you
4
buy
hours.
it in Bavaria?
No, I bought it near my hometown, which is southern Bavaria.
Right, okay.
And Bayreuth is about 4 hours from my hometown. And when I realized that they still existed and whatever, and then when I went on a big tour in 2011, I contacted them and I said, would you do a sponsored tuning for me? And they were like, yes, sure. And I went there. And that's when the manager of the manufacturers, he found a list of pianos and he found that piano. It's got a number.
Wow.
And he basically found the date it was sold on and maybe where it went to. But it was like, that's all I know.
So it
That
was
might not
only
have been
then-
that lady.
So it was only then that you found out it was made in 1937.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic.
Through that list.
Yeah. But you bought it in Bavaria and then you were living in Edinburgh. So did you then have to ship it over?
I bought it when I was on tour with my van, which I had driven down from Edinburgh, which is what I always do.
Right.
So I always start in Edinburgh where I live, and then I drive somewhere and play. And usually I would always hit my hometown because I can stay there, I have friends there. And the last few tours, maybe also I go from there and do different tour legs. But sometimes I just went on massive tours where I only stopped by there. So yeah, I go from Edinburgh. And I've done tours of the UK, I've done tours of Germany, I've done tours of Ireland, and then I've done the big tours of Europe.
Right, yeah. And you bought it while you were on tour. So did you ditch one piano and replace it with this one?
All the previous pianos didn't really work out. But I think in 2000, I found photos from 2000 where I play some other piano in Berlin. And then I play this piano in Venice.
Yeah.
So something must have happened.
But you can't quite remember.
No, I can remember, but I don't... Like, it must have been that I found this piano when part of the tour was either already planned or had already happened.
Right, yeah.
But actually, it's all quite confusing to me because we went to Venice from Halle, and Halle is quite north. Halle is near Berlin. How does that actually work?
So not quite sure.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
I could
have many memories like that.
I could try and establish it with pictures,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
My guess is that I was touring a little bit with a piano from that was in my mum's house, and it's a big, massive thing. The height does matter because of the van.
Yeah.
So my first piano, the charity shop one, I couldn't put straight into the van. We had to tilt it.
Oh God.
And we once a restaurant owner to help us because I played outside his restaurant, and he literally got buried under that piano. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, no.
But luckily he didn't get hurt. Yeah, the tilting in was mad.
And that can't be good for the tuning either, to be transported in a tilted.
No, you put it upright in the van.
Oh,
you
I see.
just had to get it
tilted
through.
in. Got it.
But that's why the one that's slightly less height is better for that. You can put it in a bit better.
Yeah.
So we had this massive piano in Berlin. But so I reckon I just put out a shout out saying I'm looking for one.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because I had these big ones with me
Right,
and it just didn't work for me.
And was it a good price? Can you remember?
Yeah, it was also a good price.
Yeah.
The lady was happy that I would use it for something nice.
Fantastic. I wonder if she ever got wind of what happened to it after that.
I have no idea.
No.
Can't tell you.
No.
She wasn't directly in my hometown. She was about half an hour from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found in my piano book where I write down things,
Yeah.
I found a list of people I made to phone.
Yeah.
There must have been more people replying to my ad.
Yes.
And I don't know which of them she was.
Right.
But
Interesting.
yeah, so
So back to the weather thing. Do you
Yeah.
ever try and play undercover so that it's, because sometimes you get outdoor, indoor spaces, I don't know, precincts or whatever. Do you try and play undercover just to make it easy so you don't have to worry about the weather?
it doesn't really work for me. It's a whole different vibe and atmosphere.
Right.
I have done it, but very rarely. For example, this is a long time ago, early 2000s, I think. I was on a tour of Scotland and we were in Inverness and it rained, but we were near that. Is it called the Victorian Market, maybe?
Yeah.
And we were near that. It's an indoor market. And someone maybe already heard me play or knew I was coming and said, hey, you could play here because they knew the stallholders or something. So I played there and that was nice. But it's just not really what I do. It's you do that, it's quite clear that someone got you. It's you can sometimes get people for events, you can get whole bands, you can get big instruments.
Lose that surreal.
You
how
lose
did
the surreal
this woman
thing.
land from a spaceship in this location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the atmosphere is different. It's so I want to play outdoors and really I want to play somewhere usually that's like just in an open place.
Yeah. What's your favourite type of location? What are you looking for when you choose a location?
I look for a thoroughfare because you still want to busk some money in. So I'm not just an art project. I try to bring some money in. I don't break even anymore, sadly, but that's to do with the cost of living now. But I used to manage to at least break even on tour, and I couldn't have afforded to just do this fancy project and just pay for it.
Yeah.
So I needed to. So that's one thought you have. You need to go somewhere where there's loads of people, and then you want to. If I can, I'll be somewhere nice, where either I'm looking at something nice or they are looking at something nice.
Yeah.
So I've played maybe next to a river or next to a beautiful cathedral or things like that.
Yeah.
You want to be in the town center. You want to be a little bit where people are quite used to. You usually go to a place where you think other buskers would say up there, because also that helps that you don't disturb anybody.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go somewhere weird and wonderful where actually there's residents are like, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't do it for picture shoots either. It's not to have a pretty picture. You want to be somewhere where you think this would be accepted.
Yeah.
And that is typically where others do it too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but given that you're camping where other people might also be busking, do you ever find yourself in competition with other buskers?
Of course.
Yeah, and how do you ever have fights with people? I don't mean physical fights, but...
It's a very big problem for me because I'm often only there that one day, that particular time. I have much less room to move than they have.
Yes.
They might have a guitar. And that, not to take away from what they do, that's as important as what I do, but my flexibility is less.
Yeah.
Often. There might be the odd one who has that same situation. Coming off a train, I only have a couple hours here.
Yeah.
But often there's, for me, also I can't necessarily move once I'm set up.
Yeah.
So I have to watch a little bit where I set up.
Yeah.
Also, I have to get to where I'm setting up. This is another whole issue. So let's say there's a set of stairs. A guitarist could go up there, but I can't.
Yeah.
I still have to go by all those unwritten and written busking rules. So I might still have to wait my turn, or maybe sometimes can't even play there and have to go somewhere that's for me harder. You can't escape that. You still have to be part of that machine.
Do you find yourself having conversations with other buskers?
Of
and trying
course.
to negotiate?
Sometimes you have to.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about weather. What we haven't talked about yet is the business of getting this piano out of and into a van. And you've said you've deliberately got a piano that doesn't have wheels because you want it to look surreal. You want people to think, how the hell did that get there? But how the hell does that get there? How do you get it out of the van and, for instance, today onto the grass?
Right. First of all, I've got to say that it wasn't deliberate to get a piano without wheels because they do not have wheels. I've got to say that I did not spend any time thinking about whether I'd get a piano with wheels or not, because I just got myself a piano, and I didn't also make a conscious decision about how I would move it or not. I just went and did it. So there wasn't much thought going into any of this. I just realized over time that I would not now go and try and fix this and make it more mobile, because I like it the way it is, really.
Yeah.
But it's just, you just really want to have a piano as it is. That's all.
Yeah.
The how to get it there. Basically, when I go anywhere I want to play, I usually have at the most one other person with me. Sometimes there's even someone who can't lift. So I'll have to find people. And so I get the piano ready to be unloaded. That's a little bit of taking the straps off and all that stuff. And then I look around and I try to find some strong people. And best in a group, if you find single men kicking about, that's great. But you have to keep someone near while you're waiting for someone else. People are busy, and whatever. So you just look around and you just try and find people who might be able to lift that thing. You can get it wrong. Someone might say they have a problem with their back or whatever, and it's like, no, please don't injure yourself. So a bit of luck is involved too. And then once you have, I'd say I need to get it out, maybe a couple people, and to get it in, better even 3 or 4. Like, getting it in is the hard part. Although today we did it with 2, and they were really strong. One of them was super strong.
Yeah.
So, it also depends on the people.
Yeah. And I realised today you have a technique. So there's you've got a way of getting it out of and into the van.
Yeah.
That involves minimal lifting.
Today that didn't even quite work out, because sometimes it's the way the piano's placed in relation to the van that makes it difficult to do it the way that I know works quite well. But what you try and do is avoid injury to piano or lifter. And because of that, I sometimes suddenly shout out, wait, or stop, because it's a very heavy thing. And if people are not used to lifting things, then it's not only the piano that could fall down, it's also the person that could get hurt. So I try to be very watching what they're doing. Where's their fingers? Are they somewhere under it? And I shout, take your fingers out if they have them anywhere under. Right. So I want to just, make sure everybody's okay. And then, yes, there's a bit of a technique where you try and never really lift the whole thing. You always try and only lift one end if you can.
Yeah.
The whole thing weighs like 200 kilos or something.
Wow. And have there been any injuries of anybody else or of you?
Never.
And how's your back?
It's okay. I don't have any problems with it.
And do you like do any kind of back strengthening exercises, or are you just
not really
just careful?
The only thing I do is that, again, when we lift, that I'm doing the same I do for everybody, for myself. So I also wouldn't just suddenly grab it and try and lift it myself. So I don't try and like show off, look what I can do, or or feel like, oh, I can't be bothered finding someone else, I'll just do that lifting. So I'll try and give myself only a portion of it to lift at any point.
Yes.
Because, yeah, I have to do it more often.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Actually, you know what? I'm more worried about my fingers. Because if something happened there, if I got them under something, then I couldn't play the next day.
Yeah. It's amazing. So just watching you as well, you're just very calmly, you're obviously very good at identifying the people who will help well. Because you weren't in any rush. You just casually watching the people as they came by, and then you spotted a couple and you said, those two. And I mean, I only saw it happen twice, once when it came out and once when it went back in again. But on both occasions, you identified two people and they were the right people. They were perfectly happy to help and they did a good job and they could do it. So it's a bit of a knack you've got there.
Thank you, but I'm sure it's also luck. And also it's festival time right now, so a lot of people are walking about.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I play out with the festival, which I do in the Meadows as well sometimes, because if it's July or September, sometimes there's a beautiful day and you're like, so sometimes it can be really tricky.
Right.
Or if you're in a city center and it gets a bit quiet, you play as long as you can sometimes because you've made all this effort to go there.
Yeah.
And now it went a bit quiet, so you stop playing and it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
how am I going to find people to help me put this thing back in? I've dragged waiters out of cafes. It has happened,
Yeah. I love that though. I love that you are absolutely reliant on the goodwill of passers-by. That's how it happens. It happens because you get people to help and you don't know who's going to help you. You just know that you will find somebody to help you, and you always do.
Yeah, always, except for there's been the odd situation where I was in some kind of car parking situation, like I was maybe in a courtyard where I could park the car and I decided to get the piano out there. And that's where it's sometimes near impossible to unload.
But then
so
what?
A place where there's no people. Well, sometimes if I have someone with me, I leave them with a van and I actually go around and start trying to find people. And then I need to just explain to them that they have to come with me.
Right.
Or I have actually a friend of mine and me on one tour. We just did it, the two of us.
Right.
It was not nice. It was hard.
Right.
But there was just nobody.
Right.
It can happen.
Yeah. But you've never had to just abandon the piano because.
Well, I wouldn't.
No.
That's not an option.
No. Gosh, now I've got this vision of you sleeping on the piano because you wouldn't abandon.
I've done that in the van.
That's how much you love your piano. You cuddle up with it at night. Okay. So what about tuning? You mentioned that briefly before, because I would have thought that just the business of lifting it in and out of the van, but then also driving it all over the place, and that it would just need tuning constantly. But how often do you get it tuned?
The least possible, because it costs me like 70 quid or more.
Yeah.
So basically, if I can avoid tuning it twice in a summer, I will.
Right.
But on tour, you need a bit more.
Yeah.
But then like in my hometown, there's a piano shop, and the people there, they'll tune it for me. So sometimes I find people who are kind.
So you have goodwill tuners
Well,
all over Europe as
not
well.
many.
Right.
Usually I have to pay for tuning.
Yeah.
There's the odd situation where I can find someone who will do it as a sponsoring. And whether I pay for it or not, very often tuners have to tune it in my van. And that's quite funny too. And I have literally on tour phoned a piano shop and said, could you tune my piano? And what would you charge if I bring it to you? And they were like, you what? It's just not a normal question. I was just trying to get it a bit cheaper. And he's like, what are you talking about?
Oh, that's fantastic. So, and that was another thing that I've been wondering about, because it's a piano, it's your piano, it's in a van, and you said earlier that when you're I think in the summer you said it just stays in the van because you're taking it out so often. But what do you do? Do you have another piano? What about if you want to practice piano? Do you have to go and sit in the van?
I have altogether 4 pianos.
Oh, where are they all?
So I have one in my what is my music bedroom and office in one. I have one in my room. That's where I practice.
Right.
It's not even that good, but that's the one I use. And then I have the street piano, which if I put it in my house, I have to find another space for it. It's always in the way, actually.
Right.
So summer's better in that respect. And then I have an electric piano, which is on long-term loan to a friend and has been for, I'd say, that might have happened in the 90s, actually.
Okay.
All their kids are learning on it. And then I have the piano in my hometown that I played on as a kid. And
So that's 5 then.
4.
Okay, wait a minute. Oh, so there's just one in this flat, there's one in the van, there's one that's on long-term loan, and there's one in your hometown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The one on long-term loan I used for gigs for a while.
Right.
But I'm not suited to play on electric. That's not really my interest. But there was just a time when I could play with that in a cafe, and I just did that.
Yeah.
It's still a good electric, but I still don't really want to play electric.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting to me. And then the one in my hometown is the really, that's the good one out of all of them.
Right.
But when I thought about bringing that on tour, we abandoned that idea quite quickly because it is the heaviest piano I've ever encountered.
Right.
And it's really good, but it's like crazy heavy.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd find so many willing people for that.
Right.
So we said, like, let's not do that.
Yeah, fair enough. And then once you've finished a performance, you've got all the money in the hat. So that's the hat. We haven't mentioned the hat. So when you set up, when you get the piano out of the van, then there's a few things that you have to kind of put on it and around it to be ready. What do you need in place to be ready to perform?
Yeah, that's a bit of a faff. And it is one of those things I don't like about doing it. There's all sorts of things that are tricky when I do this thing. And these moments where you have to just methodically really prepare, for me, they're just a worry and a rush, and I can't be asked with this now. I want to either drive or play. So, but there you have to now faff around with, this piano has to be really safe in the van. So you need to really strap it in and put blankets over it and all this. Or once you've got it out, you now have to set up a hat and put some bits of wood on the piano that tell people about your tunes, or you have to, it's just a faff. Yeah. But then you have to take the lid away, you have to put your rain cover somewhere, you have to faff it. When you have a trolley, you need to put that somewhere.
Yeah.
Keep it an eyeliner. I had wee boys trying to steal it because it's fun to ride on a trolley. So yeah, so it's that kind of faff is, and of course it gets harder when it's a rush to load, either because someone told you have to move now, or because there's rain, and you still have to faff around with all that. You can never just drive off once you've loaded. Like, it's really important that piano is tied down well in the van.
But once you're all set up, it all looks rather wonderful because it's not just the piano. You've got these beautifully written signs that you attach to it that explain to passers-by what particular tunes you will pay for £1 and also which composers you're going to be playing. And then you have a little piano-shaped collection pot that sits on the piano. You have the hat in front of the piano. You've got a little kind of stand that's got your CDs and your postcards with your cartoons. And it all looks rather lovely. And we haven't talked about your cartoons. So, I mean, there are postcards that have cartoons on that are done by you, but you are, in fact, also a cartoonist.
I like doing cartoons.
And there was one cartoon of yours that I loved that I saw somewhere or other, possibly Instagram, that was a picture of a woman playing a piano with notes coming out of it. Can you describe that one?
I think she's practicing, because it was before that piano competition.
TV show, yeah.
So I think she's practicing and the notes come out of the piano, but then she's not playing that well, so they all fall down.
Yeah.
And she gets a dustpan and shovel and gathers all the notes from the floor and puts them back in the piano.
Yeah.
And then she tries again.
Yeah. Now that's really interesting because I had a slightly different interpretation.
Oh, or maybe I've described it wrong.
Well, no, maybe, I mean, like people
What
interpret
happened?
art differently. Your intention was not quite what I interpreted.
So
but
let me
that's
see
all
what
good.
happened.
So the way I thought it was very similar, but the way I thought about it was there's a woman playing the piano. She's practicing. She's absolutely furious. She's really caught up in it. She's forgotten the whole of the rest of the world, but she's just so caught up in it that she's played all of the notes out of the piano. They've all come out of the piano and they've all landed on the floor in this frenzy of piano playing. And it's like, oh no, all the notes have gone. So she goes to get a dustpan and brush and she sweeps them all up and she puts them back in the piano and there they are again. But then she plays again and they all come out again.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that as being so much a bad note, just that there's so much exuberance that she plays the notes out of the piano.
Yeah, nice. I like that too. The most important thing is that she puts them back in.
She puts them back in, yes. But do you often find yourself, when you're drawing cartoons, do you often find yourself inspired by the piano? Is there a much connection or do the two tend to be more separate?
Oh, I don't like to draw a piano very often because it's quite tricky to draw. I find it quite hard.
Yes.
I'm quite a lazy cartoonist. I'm not even good at drawing. Like, I just do very simple. But then when I need a piano in my cartoon, then I have to go and try and draw it. It's not easy.
It's the idea.
Should have learned the flute after all.
Yes. I think it's the ideas. You have great ideas and then you put them into cartoon format.
As simple as I can.
And the cartoons make people smile and the piano makes people smile. And that was one of the things that I really noticed today. I mean, I said it before, but as people walked past, they were smiling. And then somebody came past who was somebody that had known you for a long time. And that was rather lovely. Her name was Beatrice. Can you tell us a little bit about Beatrice?
She was just there from almost the beginning. And like just walking past and always been appreciative. So over the years, at some point, we just started to have a wee chat when she came by. Like we're talking like once a year or so.
Yeah.
But still, over the years,
That's enough. Yeah.
it's really sweet. So I was really chuffed when I saw her today because again, even during the festival, I only play a few times. I would like to play more, but there's days where I can't for whatever reason, and then there's days where it's cold or rains, and so it's limited.
Yeah.
It's always limited.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because today, this man, Derek, happened by and he said, I can't believe I've never seen you, because he likes to take photos of people who do stuff in the streets. And I was like, probably because I'm not there that often. It's not that easy to catch. I'd like to be. I try to be there as much as possible.
And do you have many characters that you see repeatedly, not just in Edinburgh, but all over Europe when you've been travelling around? Are there people that you see over and over again?
That's too random. I don't really. In fact, other buskers aren't busking next to me, so I don't really see them. Also, another thing that's interesting, I go to all these places when I'm on tour. I don't have time for anything. So I don't go and, even in the festival, I don't go to the Royal Mile and see anybody.
Right.
So I don't actually know much about the other baskets. I've had years in the Fringe where I didn't really see shows because I'm just busy doing my thing. So you're not always as much in touch with that side of things as people would think. I know some performers, of course, but actually you're so busy working with your art,
And how many countries have you played in now?
I've played, I think maybe not quite 20.
And do you know how many cities or towns?
I think I might be at about 95.
Wow. I mean, what are your favourite memories? Do you have any stories to tell of things that have happened while you've been busking?
Yes, some funky things have happened. In the festivals, often funny when really funny other performers combine. You start jamming or things like that. That's happened. In Europe, when I was on tour, sometimes interesting situations. I'm just trying to think of something that's quite funny.
I'm interested in other performers. I was going to ask you about that anyway, whether anybody's ever come and jammed with you.
That
Or
does
just
happen,
played with you
yeah.
or
It does
duetted
happen.
or anything.
It happened this festival, maybe a week or two ago. There was a guy who had a case, and I started chatting to him, and he was like, "Oh, it's a trumpet. Can I play with you?" So we played a few tunes.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I think his name was Mike,
Okay.
and he plays in a show or whatever. It's often that.
And does anybody ever try and sing while you're
Yeah,
playing?
yeah. That's happened as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something lovely that happened in a Scottish town was that this was a little town like Dunfermline or something like that, and or St Andrews. I was on a pavement because it wasn't even big enough to have like a pedestrian zone or market square. So I was on the pavement, literally next to houses, and I played, and someone came out and put some money in the hat. No, didn't yet. Someone just came out of a door frame and said, "My father lives in the flat up there." And actually, I was worried. I was like, "Oh, did I disturb him?" He said he's really old, like 90 something.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I hope I didn't disturb him." And he was like, "No, he loves it. He loves it so much. He listened all afternoon and he hopes you'll keep playing." And he put money in the hat. And he said it's these old time tunes. It's like the music from their era. On the Royal Mile, I once had a woman who had tears in her eyes. She was like, "That's what my late father played." So it's like just moments like that. It's the music I play is very, I guess in some ways, nostalgic. The interesting thing about it is that kids now don't know this music. So actually, for some of my listeners, it's new.
Yes.
But it's such funky music. It was so famous in the 30s because it was funky.
Yes.
So it's like, and then there's the old people who have the memories.
Yeah.
So it can trigger something emotional for people.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. I've had that more often. In fact, really recently I played in Paisley, and we just decided let's just play somewhere that's not too far.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a mad decision, but that's what we did. So we played Paisley, and this girl was listening for a while, and she put something in the hat, and then I happened to stop playing. So I said, "Oh, that's nice, you're enjoying it." She was like, "Yeah, look up the window up there. That's where we're staying, and we've been listening already." And all our flatmates were waving out of the window. It was all these arms coming up. That was so sweet. So you sometimes have hidden listeners somewhere. I just hope that they feel nice about it. But yeah.
And you played a tune earlier on that was your own composition. It was a classical piece, and I think it was called Reminiscence.
Reminiscence.
And was that, it's, 'cause, talking about nostalgia and memories, what's the significance of the name of that piece for you?
That piece, we mentioned nostalgia. It has I don't know, it has something pulling you back towards a past time. And I don't know if that's because it touches a little bit musically on some of that, or if it's also because of the sort of pace and vibe it has. And so I think when I started writing it, I realized that, and that's why I called it that. But I think it does that. So Reminiscence is a piece I bring to the streets for that reason. I don't bring my music to the street that much because it's often it's like emotive music, but it's not always happy or whatever. So I want to create a happy vibe as much as I can. I want to cheer people up.
Yeah.
So even though it's nice to play something more mellow and more, reflective, that's not really what I want to do in the street. I want to kind of be upbeat. So I don't play my music not that much, but the Reminiscence piece I think still fits that.
Yeah. Is it addictive? Because you said you thought it was just a brief project in the late 90s, and now here we are 25 years later and you're still doing it. What is it about it that keeps you doing it?
That's a really interesting question that maybe no one's asked me. So I don't think addictive is it. For that, there's so many times between. I think maybe it's just because people like it And so why would you never do it again?
Yeah.
To hit that point where you're like, I mean, obviously, the next time the van breaks down, the next time the piano breaks down, I will question it. Are you fixing that, or are you just gonna leave it?
Yeah.
But then this has happened before, and then I found solutions.
Yeah.
Sometimes I played very little that year, but then the next year I would just sort of find a solution again.
Yeah.
I certainly don't do it because it makes sense. It doesn't make any sense. It just seems to be something I have to do.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about if it's the thing that makes me bring my music to the people? Because I don't really like to play on stages. I don't really like to play pop gigs.
Yeah.
This is all not me.
Yeah.
So maybe I found a way to express myself that works for me and hopefully for others.
Yeah.
So maybe it's also because I think it's an important art form. I think it's really important that people do, like I say, these random bits of art.
Yeah.
Spontaneous random bits of art.
Yeah.
So I kind of need to be part of that. Maybe I wouldn't quite be happy if I would only do set up gigs or only do this or that.
Yeah.
Maybe I need an outlet that's like where I do something that I find important that happens.
Yeah.
But maybe it was bad luck. Did it have to be a piano?
What's your favourite thing about playing street piano?
My favorite thing is when it works. Like when the work is done at that moment and you have a nice sounding piano, which again you needed someone to help you with because it needed fixed and tuned and whatever. You needed to bring it there, and now you have it there. And now you play. You might hear some birds sing. You might have someone there who's dancing or clapping, smiling. And so you're making someone happy.
Yes.
And in those moments, that's when I'm happy. When everybody else is happy.
Yeah.
That's really the happy place. Cool. And it does happen. It doesn't always happen.
Yeah. But I saw it happen several times today.
Oh, nice.
Smiles, dancing. Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe it happens more than I
Yes.
think because I'm so self-critical.
Maybe.
Boogie was tricky with the cold hands.
Yes. Okay, right. So tell me about permits, because you have to have permission to be in these places.
Right. So permits are something that a lot of buskers don't need. It depends on the country, on the city, and on the instrument. If you have an instrument you can move with, then you often don't bother. There are towns and places where it's vital to have them, but in my case, I always try and get them. And that's simply because I can't move easily. That's sometimes my downfall though. I literally have often thought about, should you just not? Because it brings this whole other hassle into it. But then in the end, you're always like, yeah, but if you set up somewhere and after 10 minutes, someone's like, you need to stop, it's not really ideal. So I try when I go on tour to get permits for places, and that even creates sometimes parts of why I go where, because I might not get a permit there, I might get it there, or things like that. Getting permits can be incredibly difficult. You wouldn't believe what kind of hoops you sometimes have to jump through. It's unbelievable because I'm just a busker. But sometimes there's a lot of faffing and a lot of in advance stuff. Sometimes they're like, well, you have to get there in person like 2 days before. It's like, how am I meant to do that? It can be complicated. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes they'll just give you it. But yeah, so it's one of those to figure out. Because on tour, sometimes I want to go certain places because there's maybe someone I can stay with or there's something that interests me about it. Then I'm more keen to try and get a permit there. And yeah, so last year I literally had one town I couldn't play again because I didn't get the permit again, like in 2012 when I also didn't get it. This is France.
Right.
They do like to be quite complicated there. And it was a bit like, oh, I might try one more time, but come on.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it can be a faff.
Yeah. And you have a permit to play on the Meadows in Edinburgh. Is it for a particular place? Do you have to play in one particular spot?
Yes, I think in the Meadows, it's a bit of a special permit that has more to do with how long I've been there than with what other people would do.
Right.
So I think that's like just a thing I got because they know me being there and I've played in that place a long time ago. I usually wouldn't even need a permit there. Buskers are very allowed to just play in the Meadows. So the Meadows aren't so overregulated.
Right.
But then if I wanted to do an event, I'd need a permit. But then that would be more complicated again. But then I would, of course, not do that because what if it rains? So I'm this slightly in between case.
Right.
Again, I could probably play without it, but I also always applied for it to the council just to be polite.
Yeah.
It tells them I'm there.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice thing, really. But no, but.
So what other difficulties are there that people might not think of that are involved in all of this?
Yeah, so I can either talk about them generally or I could tell you about Strasbourg.
Oh, tell me about Strasbourg.
Because I think Strasbourg had it all.
Tell me about Strasbourg.
So last year we went to Strasbourg and I thought it was all kind of sorted. Very difficult to get the permission, but in the end I got it. A very complicated permission, but I thought we'd looked at it. So this was sort of in place. We even had my friend, I was traveling with Karen. She knew someone in Strasbourg, so there was a little bit of a connection, but also we found a nice place to stay in. So it seemed all sorted. And we went the night before so we could check it out. So we did all that. Well, it turned out that actually all that didn't really yet do the trick. So on the day of playing, we drove in to where we thought we'd sort of checked out. We were going to play next to the cathedral. We could absolutely not find a way to navigate into that place where I could play. We were just driving around in circles in this old city centre, tiny little roads, complicated one-way road system. And in the end, we weren't sure, should we give up now? Should we just play somewhere else in Strasbourg? What should we do? And then some guy, we saw a courtyard through a sort of, opening. And this guy waved at us and he was like, you can park here. So we were like, oh, all right, maybe we can park here. And then, I don't know, look around or see how we could get closer. So we drove in there and this guy was really busy telling us where to park. It turned out later that he was, I don't know, a homeless guy who'd decided that he would make a euro by helping people park, whatever. So we parked there in this precious space and had to then pay for parking, had to pay him. That's all fine. But then we were like, really, we should unload it here because we can't get any closer. So we decided to do that. And so I had the problem of trying to find someone. There was no people. So I went through another opening where there was a busy pedestrian zone and sort of found these people and asked them to come with me and help me unload this piano. And then my friend and me had to get it on the cobbled streets to the cathedral. We would have played closer, but everything was just packed with people. So we had to get it. It was really hot. And when you go on cobbles, you have it on a trolley, but it just slips off the trolley. So you keep having this piano sort of shifting itself off the thing it's on. It's super sweltering hot. So we had to do this for a long time to get it to this place. And in the end, we had it next to the cathedral. We were dripping in sweat. In fact, there was a slightly closer busking place, but there was buskers on it. So we had to still get it past that. So then we got it there. The minute we pulled up, 3 police on bike came along and were like, you can't play here. So, and that's why I mentioned Strasbourg, because I had everything. I mean, I had a permit, but no, the police come. So if I didn't have the permit to pull out, at this point it might have been over. But luckily I had that. So I pulled the permit out. I was like, look, it says I can play here. They were already a bit like put off that I had produced that thing. That meant they couldn't just chase me away. And then they were like, okay, play then, but not here, over there.
No.
So we were over the cobbles again and like, okay. Now, it was still super hot and I was in this, bed in the sun playing. And then it was really nice, actually. We were right next to Cathedral. It was amazing. I was a little bit wondering why not a lot of people went past. And I was a bit like, it's a bit strange that not more of them come over and listen. Some did. Of course, what I realized later is they had the wee headphones. They had guided tours around the cathedral. Again, not something that bothers me, but it just meant that they couldn't naturally hear you. We still had a nice crowd listening. They were more behind me in the shade, and it was still really nice to play, but not for long.
Oh no.
So now I had been playing. I remember once I ran into a cafe. My friend Karen looked after it. And I ran in and just put lots of cold water over my face. It was so crazy hot. So then I was playing for a bit and then there was a guy listening. Really nice. And I was stopping a piece and he said to me, so are you not worried about the rain? Does that not matter to you? I was like, what rain? What are you talking about? It's just the sun, And he was like, and he showed me his app. I was like, when? And he said, in 10 minutes. I was like, in 10 minutes? No. So I was like, Karen, we have a problem. That van is quite far away. We have no idea how to get here with the van. To take it across the cobbles. It's just really complicated. So I didn't know what to do. And then when it already started drizzling, this friend of hers arrived on his bike because she told him we were playing. And like an angel, it seemed to me. He arrived on his bike, someone who knows the town. And instead of what he had probably imagined, listening to my piano playing, having a nice time, we were like, oh my God, we need the van. So I ran with him to the van and he helped me. We could get it in. It was probably not totally legal, but we could get it in. And we took the van as close as we could. Left it in a bit where you were absolutely not allowed to leave it. This is the other thing. You will end up doing things that could give big fines or whatever. Ran to get the piano. My friend had tried to keep that cover over it, which had been blown away. And so it really did turn like from sunny to stormy in minutes. It was crazy. And so then we still had to put it on the wheels, still get it to where that van was. We were in the way of these little trains they have there and stuff with our piano and our van, and the police came and gave us a very serious look. But oh my God, then we had to load quickly, find people, please help us, and loaded it and then drove out. went back to the Airbnb, opened that bottle of bubbly and had it. The three of us.
So Strasbourg had everything.
I think it didn't have one thing, which is that happened in Düsseldorf. Someone on drugs or drink
Right.
who hovers around you and see, we are all on the street. I want to be part of the street community, but sometimes it can get awkward or dangerous. And so we didn't have the person who's aggressive or annoying isn't a good word. It's more like that I'm trying to do something nice here and who takes that picture and makes it something else. Where, for example, someone with a kid pulls the kid away or whatever.
Right.
There's nothing I can do. I'm really stuck to this piano.
Yeah.
The person who's with me might not even be there at that point.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go off like you did, get a coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can be very vulnerable. I've had someone destroy my hat, kicked it and destroyed it.
Yeah.
You can have, that's not because they have a problem with me.
Yeah.
It's just because they're in a bad place.
Yeah.
And so in Düsseldorf we had this guy. He was always there, and in the end my friends tried to find police to but it really changed the whole thing, unfortunately. So we didn't have that in Strasbourg. So I don't know why I'm even complaining about.
And you have signs on the front of the piano telling people about the songs that you will play, and you give them a list. These are the songs I play. You can ask for any of these songs. But I know you said to me earlier that there are some songs that you are happier about when they request than others. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I have a repertoire of tunes that I find either interesting or that are just interesting, to play. So Fats Waller, George Gershwin, Scott Joplin, the old stride tunes, that is my passion. And so I try and bring that to the people, also because it's not what everybody does, but also because I love them. And they're usually beautiful arrangements. So I find the original arrangement by Gershwin or by Waller, and I play that exact arrangement. And so they are on there. And then when you go further down, it goes to the boogie boogies. And of course they are fast. If my hands are cold, I have a problem playing them. But also it's just a bit more of a show of peace, and maybe a crowd will gather and then it's all a performance. So it's slightly less relaxed for me. I'm not really a good show off. That's not really what I want to do. So if someone asks for the Bumble Boogie, I'm like, oh shit. But I will do it unless my hands are too cold.
What's your favourite thing that people ask for?
I think Fats Waller.
Yeah.
But I love Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
And it's quite easy for me to play, but actually it's a beautiful tune. It's maybe the tune with the vibe that is really my shit.
Although ironically, you hope that you never actually will be singing in the rain.
And it's absolutely an endless joke people make to me. They always walk past and they go, but you wish it wouldn't, right?
And which Fats Waller song is it that you do?
I played to you today. I played Alligator Crawl and Misbehavin, and other tunes that I have is Honeysuckle Rose.
are they all, because I asked you what was your favourite and you just said Fats Waller. So any Fats Waller song, are they all the ones that you really like to
No,
play?
I think it is those. Misbehavin.
Yeah.
Alligator Crawl is a total favourite. And Singing in the Rain.
It's funny because Fats Waller is a bit of a joke in our house, because when I was 16, I was on a little known ITV quiz show called Connections. And when they interviewed me, they said, you know, what hobbies do you have? And I said that I played the piano. And they said, what do you like to play on the piano? And I said, Fats Waller. And they said, and what, I think maybe they said, what kind of music do you like to listen to? And I said, Fats Waller. And they said, and what else? And my mind just went completely blank. And I said, just Fats Waller mostly. And that became a catchphrase in our house, Fats Waller mostly.
Oh, I love that. Fats Waller mostly. I like that. I am maybe his biggest fan, and he's maybe my biggest hero. I would say that there's a vibe in his pieces that no one else has. Actually,
Yeah. Fantastic. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell me about?
Yeah, one more thing which I thought of when we talked about touring, which was, I find it quite quirky, the organization of it.
Yeah.
Because last year, for example, I think I had maybe 10 or 11 tour partners.
Wow.
On maybe 5 or more tour legs.
Right.
And so I just found that quite funky, that you have to sort of try and organize so many people in order to afford to do a 4-week thing.
Yeah.
Of course, it'd be easier if I had someone for 4 weeks, but who's going to do that? Take the time out to go on piano tour. So it's usually someone takes a few days off. And so it was some friends that I've known for 30 years and some friends that I've known for 1 year.
Right.
And you just kind of like, you talk to people and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. And they're like, oh, really? Where are you going?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you want to come? Yes.
Yeah. But you have to make sure, so it must be really difficult, because I could imagine that you might, in a 4-week period, you might have 3.5 weeks covered, but there just might be 1 or 2 days here and there that you don't have anybody down for. You're trying to fill in the gaps.
Well, I do that actually too much. I tend to arrange too much.
Right.
And not get enough, because it's not only downtime. You should, in some places, you should maybe tell the press because they'd be interested, like my hometown. Or you have to still pre-organize. Often when I go on tour, I haven't got all the accommodation booked and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I'm not usually so well organized. None of this pays. So it's always, you have to always find the time to do all this. And yeah, so what were you saying there?
Well, I was saying that you might have a 4-week period with 3.5 weeks. You've got travel.
Yeah, no,
but some of it you haven't.
Yeah, so the problem is more the other way around. I tend to fill in too much and try and use every single moment for playing. And so last year, for example, one friend had to cancel a 1-week tour leg.
Right.
So that was gutting.
Yeah.
And it meant that there was some things I couldn't play.
Right.
But the saddest was about Luxembourg, because I haven't played that yet altogether. But what happened in the end, I phoned up everybody where we were going to visit. And I asked, would you help me set my piano up? And they were like, yeah, sure. I'll take that day off and help you, which was really lovely.
Yeah.
So that way I could play a couple of places. But then the place where it was just me and her and booked accommodation, we had to cancel. And I think it was much better. Like for my own health.
Right.
I think I had, because the driving would have been completely mental.
Yeah.
And then the minute I would have been back from that, my next tour would have started.
Right.
So, yes, I maybe rather overdo it. When I played the Baltic countries, I went on a tour of Scandinavia and then a ferry from Sweden to Estland and then down again. This was a massive tour. Every day we played, every day we drove.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah. That's
So
so crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. That's what I'll do if you give me the chance. If you're
you
like,
haven't-
well, you could play here that day and here that day, I'll be like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Let's do
Right.
that.
Yeah. So you haven't learnt to build breaks in then?
Not really. But last year my friend couldn't make it, so I got a
But
tiny
you're
break.
still doing it. You're still doing it.
But I will not tour every year.
Right.
I mean, I will tour next year because it's 25 years. But I bet I fucking take a break after that. You know, it's touring. It really takes it out of you and out of your year in a way.
Yeah.
Because you spent months organizing them, preparing it.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing how much
crazy.
work you put into it.
It's really crazy.
Yeah. But you must love it.
Apparently, allegedly.
Well, Vroni, thank you so much for talking to me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're very welcome. And thank you for your visit.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. You've been the brilliant hostess.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad I met you on the piano.
Yeah, me too. I've met loads of really interesting people, but particularly you and Mikey. It was absolutely great to meet you both. And it's been wonderful having you on the podcast.
And it was also nice to go out after that final concert night.
Yes.
Because it's like this empty space. It's weird. You have to have some friends around you, and even better, some friends who've just been through the same thing.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you to Anthony Thomas, who provided the theme music, and stay tuned to hear more fascinating stories from street musicians.